Hello, everyone. Welcome to Barça News. My name is Mo, and welcome to the post-match live analysis where we analyze Barcelona matches as soon as they done. We're not too soon because today, of course, I did have to work. So this is a couple of hours later, but nonetheless, here we are ready to react to Barcelona's match in the Copa del Rey where they won 0-2 against Racing de Santander, moving on into the quarterfinals of the Spanish Cup. Now, I do apologize for starting a little bit late. I was having some problems with my audio mixer. For some reason, it wasn't connecting. I had to restart. I had to check my connections, all that good stuff. But I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about today's match because, ladies and gentlemen, Barcelona are through to the next stage. They are in the quarterfinals of the Copa del Rey, one of the top 8 teams of this competition after defeating Racing de Santander 0-2 with goals by Ferran Torres and Lamine Yamal in the added time. Now, this was a challenging match. Let's put it that way. This is what I said during yesterday's podcast when I was talking about today's match. I said, this is not going to be an easy match. This is not going to be a walk in the park because Copa del Rey sometimes can get challenging. Sometimes can be difficult. It's a little bit deceiving, right? Because on paper, a lot of these teams should be going through. And they don't, right? Like we saw yesterday with Real Madrid, right? Because on paper, we're talking about Barcelona, top of La Liga table, going against a second division team. On paper, this should be not only a victory, but an easy victory. But many times, that's not what you get in results. Because again, Copa del Rey can be deceiving at points because a lot of these teams, not only do they have the home advantage where they're playing in their stadium, but they also come out very, very motivated, right? They're playing against giants. They want to be the David versus Goliath battle. So they come out super motivated as opposed to these first division teams who perhaps might not be as motivated, right? Because it's not the same as playing against Real Madrid in El Clásico or against Bayern Munich in the Champions League as opposed to Racing de Santander in the Copa del Rey, right? So where these first division teams usually not as motivated, these lower division teams come out much, much more motivated, playing at home with their crowds also very, very motivated because, of course, if you're a Racing de Santander fan, of course you want to see your team beat Barcelona. So challenging match as many of these matches are against lower division teams. And I got to say something. I got to applaud Racing de Santander because what a match. I mean, this was not your typical lower division team that just parks the bus, defends with all 11 players, and then just hopes to play on a counterattack. Not at all. This was a brave Racing de Santander. This was a team that was not afraid to press, not afraid to advance their lines, not afraid of attacking, not afraid of leaving space in the back. This was a very brave, courageous Racing de Santander. And as a result, we saw them create a lot of chances. As a result, we saw them come very close to equalizing. And as a result, we got an entertaining match out of it. Because after all, like I always say, football is entertainment, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to see a team just park the bus and watch a boring match. I want to see two teams go at it, and that's what we saw today. So I got to give my props to Racing de Santander for the incredible match that they had. And of course, I got to say this. Racing de Santander, man, they play better than many of the first division teams, including Real Madrid, because let's not forget how Real Madrid played against us in a Spanish Super Cup final. They played like a small team, parking the bus and just sending long balls to Vinicius. Not even Racing de Santander did that, and they're playing in second division. So again, my props to Racing de Santander, who played better than many first division teams, including the pathetic club Real Madrid. Now, as you might have seen on the thumbnail, I put at the bottom that this was a perfect week. And it was for 2 reasons. Not only did Barcelona get 2 out of 2 victories, lifting the Spanish Super Cup final and advanced to the quarterfinals, but also this was a perfect week because we saw Real Madrid crash out of the Spanish Super Cup and they've also crashed out of the Copa del Rey. So out of the 4 possible trophies, Barcelona has already won one, and they're still alive in the other 3. So we still have a chance of conquering all 4, as opposed to Real Madrid, where out of the 4 trophies, they're already out of 2. One losing the final to Barcelona in the Spanish Super Cup, and the other one, of course, crashing out in a very embarrassing, humiliating way out of the Copa del Rey. So perfect week for Barcelona because, again, not only we celebrate our victories, but we also get to celebrate the demise of Real Madrid, or at least temporary. Obviously, this is not forever. So Very, very happy today to see Barcelona pull off this victory, even though it wasn't really a great match by Barcelona. I mean, the first half was not a good first half. It wasn't until the second half that the team improved. But that's the thing about Hansi Flick's team. That's the thing about Hansi Flick's Barcelona, because even when they don't have great matches, even when they don't play their best, they're still able to pull off victories. And that's very important, because you're not always going to have great days. You're not always going to have great matches, and you have to be able to win both when you have good performances and also when you have bad performances. And if you could do that, well, that's a recipe for winning trophies. And right now, the way we're positioned, I think Barcelona has a good chance at repeating what we did last season, which is winning La Liga, the Copa del Rey, and the Spanish Super Cup. Doesn't mean we will, but we have a good chance at repeating that. As far as the Champions League, I'm still a little bit iffy. There's still a question mark for me on whether we can go all the way in the Champions League, because I think the team still has room to improve if we want to aspire to win the Champions League. Because, of course, we have to play against teams like Arsenal, like Bayern Munich. That's a completely different story than playing like against small clubs like Real Madrid. Now, speaking of Real Madrid, I want to show you something before I start talking about Barcelona, because check this picture out from today's match. And this is very, very important, because this was Racing Santander giving Barcelona the honor guard as they entered the stadium. And this speaks volumes. This speaks volumes. This shows the class that some teams, some small teams like Real Madrid lack, because Racing Santander had no obligation to do this, by the way. This is a completely different competition. This is the Copa del Rey. It's not the Spanish Super Cup. So had they not done this, nobody would even batted an eye, because what's the point of the honor guard, right? It's, if you're giving that to the other team, is because you competed against them in the same competition. And you're recognizing, hey, we all competed for the same title, and you're the one who won. And therefore, I'm going to honor you because you were the best. You bested all of us. That wasn't the case here, right? Barcelona didn't play against Racing Santander in the Spanish Super Cup. Racing Santander didn't even participate in the Spanish Super Cup. So they had no obligation of doing this. And yet they did it, because some teams have class. Some teams have sportsmanship, something that's very, very lacking in Real Madrid, because Real Madrid did participate in the Spanish Super Cup. Real Madrid did lose at the hands of Barcelona. And more importantly, Real Madrid received the honor guard from Barcelona. Let's not forget, the Barcelona players gave Real Madrid their honor guard as they were going up to collect their favorite prize, which is second place. And despite all of that, Real Madrid refused to return the favor, and they went into the locker room, which just goes to show how classless that small team is. Because the true character of teams and players is not revealed in victory, it's revealed in defeat. Because anybody can be humble when they win. It's really easy when you win to come out and say, my opponent is the best, they're amazing, blah, blah. That's very easy to do. Anybody can do that. No, it's when you lose that truly determines your character. And Real Madrid showed us the character that they had when they refused to give Barcelona the honor guard, even though they had received it a few minutes ago. It just goes to show how classless and small that pathetic club is in the capital of Spain. This is kind of like when they say, you don't truly get to know your wife until you divorce her, or you don't truly get to know your family members until there's a will dispute. Well, this is the same thing. You don't truly get to know a team's character until in defeat. And well, Real Madrid showed us pretty clear what kind of team they are. So kudos to Racing Santander for having some class, for having sportsmanship, and of course, kudos to them for the amazing display that we saw today by them. A very courageous and brave team that was not afraid to go head-to-head with the biggest club in Spain, FC Barcelona. Now, having gotten that out of the way, let's talk about the team or the match. And as always, I do like to review the lineup. And then, of course, we talk about the general sensations of the team. And then finally, we'll talk about individual players. But let's look at the lineup that Hansi Flick chose for today. Of course, lots of rotations because, well, we just played a final a few days ago. Before that, we had played a semifinal. And of course, this weekend, we have La Liga match. We cannot be dropping points because we might be sitting at the top of La Liga table, but we're only 4 points ahead of Real Madrid. That's not a lot. So, of course, we have to stay focused. We have to keep our players fresh. So, Hansi Flick today choosing to rotate some of the players on the squad. Now, in goal, of course, Joan Garcia. This is kind of something I predicted during yesterday's podcast. I said, that all eyes are on Flick right now. The whole press is focused on Flick, on the question, who's the second goalkeeper? Is it Ter Stegen? Is it Szczesny? Is it Szczesny? Is it Ter Stegen, right? Because whoever starts in a Copa del Rey, that's clearly the number 2 goalkeeper. And I said, Hansi Flick might say, you know what, fuck it. I don't want to deal with this BS, and I'll just put in Joan Garcia, and I don't have to answer the question of who's the number 2 and who's the number 3. And that's exactly what Flick did today, avoiding any kind of minds, any kind of drama, and just saying, you know what, I'm just going with my number 1, Joan Garcia, number 2, number 3, I don't even care. Jules Koundé and Alejandro Balde and as our 2 fullbacks, Cubarsí and Gerard Maldini. Maldini coming in for Eric Garcia to give him some rest, since Eric Garcia did play in both the semi and the finals of the Spanish Super Cup. And as far as the rest of the defensive line is pretty much the starting defensive line. Now, we saw in the midfield, we had a double pivot of Marc Bernal and Marc Casado. So our entire midfield was pretty much made up of substitutes because, of course, Casado has become the substitute of Frankie and Eric. Marc Bernal, of course, a substitute of Pedri. Actually, you can also say Eric Eric and Frankie. And then Dani Olmo has clearly become the substitute of Fermin Lopez. And our front 3, of course, Lamine Yamal on the right, Marcus Rashford, Rafinha substitute, and then Ferran Torres. I don't want to say he's Lewandowski substitute because I don't think there's a clear starting number 9. Because, of course, Lewandowski has more of a rotational role this season. But it is clear that if tomorrow we have a Champions League final, I think Flick would go with Lewandowski. But either way, lots of rotations here in Hansi Flick's starting lineup. Now, let's talk about the general sensations of the team because, like I said, first half, not a good half by Barcelona. And I think a lot of it had to do with, of course, all the substitution that Flick did. And, of course, when you put in a lot of players that haven't played together, it becomes more difficult for the team to flow, right? Because the flow comes from players playing together, getting to know each other, developing that chemistry, right? That's very important. And what's that chemistry I'm talking about? Chemistry is, of course, knowing, hey, that teammate is gonna, run to the right or go to the left without him saying anything to me, without him looking at me, without him doing anything. I just know because I can read his body language. I can guess what he's got to do because we played so much time together that you develop that sixth sense, right? So that's where the flow really comes, is from playing together and developing that chemistry. When you have players that haven't played together, for example, our entire midfield hasn't played together and they haven't played with the rest of the team, that becomes a little bit more difficult. So as a result, we saw that our team wasn't really flowing too well. And of course, our midfield was a little bit non-existent. And as a result, during the first half, we saw Racing Santander get through our midfield and create several chances. Now, in the second half was a different story because once Pedri, Fermin Lopez came on, that completely changed that entire match. And that, of course, highlights a very important thing, which is that between Pedri, Fermin, and Rafinha, they have become the game changers of FC Barcelona. Whatever's happening in the match, as soon as these 3 come on, the match completely changes. They have become game changers for FC Barcelona, and as a result of them coming in, of course, we first saw Ferran Torres' first goal by a brilliant pass by Fermin Lopez all the way from the midfield, breaking all of Racing Santander's lines to leave Ferran Torres 1v1 against the goalkeeper, and he scored a goal. And then, of course, the second goal in added time where Lamine Yamal kind of misses the pass, but Rafinha is able to recover it and passes it back to Lamine for the second goal, and the match ends 0-2. Now, I do want to talk about specific players, and I'll put the lineup back on. That way, I don't forget the players. Number 1, Joan Garcia. I think despite Barcelona's not greatest performance today, the silver lining is that once again, we realize that we have a miracle goalkeeper. Once again, we realize that we have a miracle goalkeeper in Joan Garcia. And I've explained what the difference is between a great goalkeeper and a miracle goalkeeper. A great goalkeeper will stop most of everything except the impossible shots. A miracle goalkeeper can even go as far as stopping the impossible shots. Something very, very, very rare to find. Very, very few goalkeepers around the world can do that. And ladies and gentlemen, we are blessed that we have one of those very few goalkeepers, which is a miracle goalkeeper, Joan Garcia, who cost us 25 million euros. The biggest steal in the most recent years 25 million euros. I mean, I'm at the point where I just want to call Espanol and be like, hey, can I donate to you guys? Because I feel like we ripped you off. I mean, we didn't really, because it wasn't a negotiation. It was a release clause. That's their fault for setting such a low release clause, but complete rip-off. 25 million euros for what is now the best goalkeeper in Spain, undoubtedly. And again, if Luis de la Fuente doesn't take Joan Garcia to Spain, to the World Cup, that guy needs to be sacked ASAP. But Joan Garcia, miracle goalkeeper, final moments of the match, 1v1 against the Santander player. And what does he do? Well, he pulls off a miracle save, because that could have been the equalizer, and we could be talking about going to extra halves, which is not something you want to do, especially when you just played a final and a semifinal a few days ago, and you have a La Liga match coming up on the weekend. More things. Our midfield. Today, first half, our midfield was a disaster. Marc Casado is so below his level that he was at during last season, which is an absolute shame, because during that first half of the season where he was covering for Frankie de Jong, I thought he did a spectacular job, way, way below his level. It might have to do with continuity, kind of like what we saw with Eric Garcia under Xavi Hernandez, where he wasn't really getting that many minutes, and his minutes were very sporadic. So whenever he would come back onto the field, it had been several weeks since he played. So that lack of continuity meant that he was always rusty. Maybe that's what it is, because Casado hasn't been getting much minutes, but very below his level. Marc Bernal, I don't want to say I was impressed, because you could see that he is rusty, because he has been out for a year and he's only been getting very few minutes. But here's the thing. You see the potential in Marc Bernal. The potential is there. We have our future pivot, ladies and gentlemen, and that is Marc Bernal, because his vision of the field is unlike no other. The way he can turn around and just with a half a spin, clear space, get rid of two guys that are pressuring him, the way he could distribute the ball, the way how he sees where all his teammates are without even have to lift his head up. I mean, we have our future pivot in Marc Bernal. He's not there yet. He still has to get a competitive rhythm. We saw it today, but with time, he will get there. And remember, he's only 18 years old. We haven't even seen the tip of the iceberg as far as what Marc Bernal can give us. But Marc Bernal is our future Sergio Busquets. Dani Olmo. I hope by now you guys see what I've been saying, because I said this before, Fermin Lopez over Dani Olmo, and people wanted to crucify me like I just said Messi's the worst player in the history type shit. I'm sorry, but we could see now what a difference it makes to have Fermin Lopez on the field versus having Dani Olmo. Now, don't get me wrong. As I've said before, when it comes to raw talent, Dani Olmo is 100% more talented than Fermin Lopez. But as we've seen time and time again, talent is not everything. That's just 1/3 of the equation. The second third being performance, which is when you translate your talent into actual performance on the field. And the third would be, of course, mental, right? Because you could be very talented, but if you don't have the mental fortitude to compete at the highest level, to maintain your performance, then you're in trouble, right? And as we saw today, Olmo might be more talented than Fermin, but Fermin Lopez puts out way better performances than Dani Olmo, because as soon as Fermin Lopez came on, he completely changed the face of the match, as opposed to Dani Olmo's first half, which was very, very timid. Marcus Rashford, another example. If you want to compare raw talent than Marcus Rashford to Coutinho, Rashford is a million times more talented, but guess who I want on my team starting? It's not Marcus Rashford, it's Rafinha. Because again, talent is only 1/3 of the equation. And if you're not translating that talent into output, well, it's pointless. And that brings me to my next player, Marcus Rashford. I still don't see it. I still don't see why we would want to spend 30 million euros on Marcus Rashford plus his high salary. Because when it comes to teams who leave very space in the back, Rashford gives you between very little and nothing. And that's concerning. Now, don't get me wrong. When Rashford has space, he shines. His speed is incredible. He's one of the fastest players on the squad. His power, I mean, you try to stop a sprinting Rashford is like trying to stop a train without brakes. His shots are, I mean, he has cannons for shots. If I was a goalkeeper and I see Marcus Rashford shooting at me, I'm running away because I'm not trying to stop that freaking cannonball. We've seen what he can do when he has space. The problem is when he doesn't have space, because he gives you almost nothing. And why is that problematic? Because out of the 19 teams that we face off against in La Liga, 15 or 16 of them are going to park the bus. So if you cannot shine against teams that leave you very little space, and that's the majority of them, then what good are you if I can only use you in 2 or 3 matches in La Liga? Well, I guess 4 or 6 because you played twice against the same team. Is that worth 30 million? I'm sorry, but I don't see it. Maybe you guys see something different. Let me know if you do, but I don't see it. And before you reply, you're just hating. Let's be a little bit more mature and actually come up with an argument and tell me, hey, Mo, you're wrong because Rashford offers ABC. They'll be like, you just hate him because, well, I could just reply, well, you just love him. See how stupid that sounds? Let's be a little bit more mature, intellectually speaking, and be able to articulate an argument versus just saying, you just hate him. But anyways, Lamine Yamal. Lamine Yamal today had a weird match. On one hand, he was imprecise a lot of times with his dribbling, losing balls, sometimes imprecise passes, and on other times he was putting out some amazing passes. So it was kind of an odd match for Lamine where he was blowing hot and cold. But here's the thing about Lamine Yamal. This guy is fearless. This guy will try and try and try. If he loses the ball, he keeps trying. If he makes a wrong pass, he keeps trying. And that's what I love about Lamine Yamal, because that's very difficult in players, and more so when they're 18 years old. Because a lot of players, they don't even try because they're scared of making the wrong move, losing the ball, and then looking stupid. And even if they're not scared, eventually after losing it so many times, then they develop that fear of trying because, again, they don't want to look stupid. They don't want their teammates screaming at them, hey, I was open, like, what the fuck? Or their coaches or anything. Not Lamine Yamal. Lamine Yamal could lose the ball 10 times. He continues to try. And that's what I like about Lamine. Even though today's match might not have been his best match, but hey, he scored a goal. And again, he was putting out some incredible passes. Ferran Torres, great goal. Besides that, I don't really see much. And this is why I say Ferran Torres must be confusing all the pundits and the statisticians the people who do statistics of football. Because on paper, if you look at Ferran Torres' number, you're like, wow, this guy must be an incredible center forward. And then you watch his matches, you're like, because great goal. And he added to his big tally of goals. But besides that, he didn't really offer too much in the match. But anyways, again, Fermin Lopez, already talked to him. Pedri, what do we have to say about Pedri? I mean, that guy is a fucking magician. And Rafinha came on, and right away, they completely changed the face of the match. We were able to take home this victory, 0-2. We're on to the quarterfinals. And of course, as I said, this is an important victory because not only we're through, but we were able to get this victory despite not playing the best, and also being able to rotate our players because, again, we just played a semifinal and a final, and then we have a La Liga match coming up. So great victory today. I'm not going to sit and cry about our first half because we still got the victory. And again, very happy. We'll see what happens over the weekend in La Liga. But perfect week for Barcelona, lifting the Spanish Super Cup, qualifying to the next round. And of course, we add to that the fact that Real Madrid, we beat them in the final. They crashed out of the Copa del Rey. And well, it makes it a perfect week, especially because now they don't have an excuse, right? Because after how they crashed yesterday, had we crashed out too, they would have been like, oh, look, see, Barcelona are also not that great. So you look, Copa del Rey is difficult. But no, they don't get to use us as an excuse. Now they get to wallow in their pathetic selves. Anyways, let's do the comment section and then we'll end this. But let's see what everybody's saying about today's match. Let me see your sensations. Ellie George says, let's go. Yes, let's go. Let's keep the momentum and hopefully just improve our Champions League play. Great turnaround this season from the boys. 100% I agree with you, my friend. Like I said at the beginning, I feel like we have a good chance of repeating what we did last season, which is winning La Liga, Copa, and Spanish Super Cup, which we already won. But Champions League, for me, it's still a question mark. So we still have plenty of room to improve. We still need to get better in order to have a shot at the Champions League because there's some scary teams in there. Koleka Minajini says, Mo, I all in for Yamal, but sometimes felt like he's doing too much instead of making the simple decisions like Pedri does. Yamal passes were weak or dribbling without an idea of how it will end. Well, they're completely two different players, right? Lamine Yamal is more of a dribbler. His football is based on taking on defenders 1v1. Versus Pedri, he plays that simple football, right? which is an incredibly difficult thing to do. It's like Johan Cruyff said, playing football is simple, but playing simple football is one of the most difficult things to do. And that's pretty much Pedri in a nutshell. He plays simple football. And my God, he makes it look so easy. He makes it look so easy. And it's a very difficult thing to do. That's why we've only seen a handful of footballers be able to do that. Iniesta and Xavi being two of them. Not that I want to compare Pedri to Iniesta and Xavi because he has a lot more to go. You know, he's still in the early stages of his career. But it's very difficult to find players that can play simple football because it's the most difficult thing to do. And Pedri does it with so much ease. So much. I mean, that guy makes football look like it's nothing. Like he's not even sweating. Like, my God. Pedri Potter or Pedri Potter. They say Pedri Potter in Spanish because I guess that's how you pronounce Potter. Jonathan says, Juan Garcia, best signing of the season. Grass is green, brother. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, undoubtedly. Let me think. Probably in the last even 2 seasons, because the summer before we signed Olmo. We've seen how that turned out. The summer before that, who did we sign the summer before that? Vitor Roque. God bless Vitor Roque. So, yeah, he's one of the best signings in the most recent years. Obviously not going too much back because a few years back we got Pedri. And right now you cannot compare Juan Garcia to Pedri because obviously Juan Garcia just arrived. He's just started his career at Barça as far as Pedri has been here for a while. But, yeah, one of the best signings in the most recent years. But, yeah. And Barça Mama says, there he is. Let's get this party started. Yeah, sorry about starting late. I don't know what happened with my soundboard. It was just not connecting. It's like my software was not recognizing it. It kept recognizing the camera's microphone. And trust me, you don't want to hear me on the camera's microphone because it would have sounded muffled, super low, horrible. But technology sometimes doesn't cooperate, right? It's a double-edged sword. If it works, it's awesome. And if it doesn't, you're in trouble. The Jeff says, if we sign Rashford, I'll have personal problems with Deco. Yeah. I mean, look, the only way I would be okay with the Rashford signing is if A, Manchester United agrees to lower their asking price, and B, Marcus Rashford agrees to a substantial salary cut. Otherwise, I just don't see how we can justify 30 million plus an incredibly high salary on a player that A is going to be a substitute because he's not benching Rafinha. I'm sorry, but he's not. And B, doesn't really give you much when it comes to teams who don't leave much space. And guess what? That's most of the teams we play against. It's teams that they don't leave much space. You know, if this was maybe the Premier League where there's a lot more teams who are actually try and attack and leave space in the back, okay. But unfortunately, La Liga has become a league where most of the teams just park the bus. So that's a problem. That's a problem. K Slim says, greeting from Florence. Let's go. It's 1:05 right now. Have to work at 10 a.m. But after the Barca meal, I needed to the Mo dessert to rest. Thanks, Mo, for all your great work. No, thank you, my friend, for watching, and thank you for staying up late. Hopefully you won't be too tired. Yesterday, I made that video, the reactions of Madridistas to their loss in the Copa del Rey, and I didn't know it would take me that long. And I was up till 3:30 in the morning. So today I was struggling at work. I mean, I was so exhausted. I only slept like 4.5 hours. But if you guys haven't seen it, check it out. It's the first time I do something like that. It's a compilation of Madridistas, you know, having a meltdown at Real Madrid's crash out of the Copa del Rey. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Again, I've never done anything like that. The editing was all new to me, like all that stuff I added. I was like, I was like Googling stuff, downloading stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Otherwise, I'm tired for nothing. So please, check it out. Edward says, Mo, bro, I literally loved your Real Madrid watch-along reaction video. Okay, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I'm glad. I didn't know how it was going to be received because, especially, I didn't know if it was going to cause drama with the people that I actually, you know, took footage from their channels. I hope they're not, like, mad at me or something that I'm making fun of them or anything. I mean, it's all just jokes and fun. I mean, if they want to clip my videos, me watching Barca matches, I'd totally be okay with that. So I wasn't sure how it's going to be received, but so far I've gotten positive reviews. So, yeah, maybe I'll keep doing them. McBarca says, Mo, we can agree we are cooked in the Champions League. I just pray we don't get a Premier League team in the knockout stages. I don't want to say cooked, but we do have a lot of room for improvement in the Champions League. Now, keep something in mind. We haven't played Champions League since the team improved, right? The last Champions League match, we were still like, going through that weird phase where we were still starting to get better, but we still hadn't turned things around. I think we have improved a lot more since the last Champions League match. So the next Champions League match, we'll see how the team is doing. Of course, it is against Copenhagen, which is not necessarily a strong team, but we could still start fill out the sensation, see how much better the team has gotten. But yeah, we definitely need to have a lot of work in the Champions League. Where people ask me sometimes, do you think Barcelona can go all the way? And I'm like, not in the Champions, not right now. Not right now. Maybe if I see the team improve and we start killing it in the Champions League, then maybe. Remember this, by the way. This is why I don't think we're cooked. Remember this. PSG had to play a playoff matches qualify to the round of 16 because they started the group stages horribly. And then they face off against Liverpool, which they barely beat. They really, really struggle. And after that, it's when PSG really takes off and they end up winning the whole thing. So, are we in a position to win the Champions League right now? No. Does that mean we're cooked? No, because we still have time to improve, right? Not every team wins the Champions League by starting off, at 100 miles per hour since day one. Sometimes teams start out slow and you think they're about to get eliminated, and then bam, they just take off. So we still have time. We'll see. Let's see. Slav is the only way to say if you're only playing against this kind of team in their home, all you need to do is just get your winning and run away. And that's what Barca did. That's how a champion win this kind of game, Hansi, intentionally. Yeah, like I said, sometimes you're not always going to have great matches. You're not always going to steamroll your opponent. You have to be able to pull victories, even in the difficult matches, even when you play ugly. Because if you only pull off matches when you play great, and you can't win when you're playing okay or you're playing horribly, then you're going to lose a lot of matches. And if you lose a lot of matches, well, you're not going to win anything. So you have to be able to win no matter what. And that's what we did today. And this is why I'm happy. Evgeny says, I want Atletico next. Get the big boys out of the way early. I like that. By the way, they barely won today, 1-0. Brilliant goal by Griezmann. God bless him. He shows up once in a blue moon. But when he does, he does. So, yeah. All the first division teams struggled today. Let's see. Blaurana X says, hey, man, I didn't see any progression on Marc Bernal. I did. Watch the match again, my friend. The R9 Gaming with a donation. Thank you, my friend, for your donation. And I see that you wrote a comment under this one. So let's look at the comment. Says, what's up, Mo? Did you see what Tebas said about games being bought from 08 to 13 and how allegedly Madrid turned a blind eye? I did see that. But here's the thing. Tebas likes to talk, but where's the action? I mean, how many statements has he made about Real Madrid TV and how they need to stop doing what they do, which is influence the competition through their videos? Okay? What have you done about it? How about you find them? No? I mean, if you truly wanted to stop, like you keep saying you want to, fine them every time they put out a video. They keep fining and let the fines go up, right? First time, I don't know, a few thousand. Next time, double. Next time, quadruple. And just keep doing it until they stop. But words are cheap, my friend. Words are cheap. Rodriguez says, I think Rafa is more talented than Rashford, and he's definitely as quick or quicker. I honestly don't know if we should buy Rashi. He's a good sub. I don't think Rafinha is more talented than Rashford, but obviously he performs a million times better. So, let's see. What else? P4K Chema says, Mo, you should watch Ubieto reaction to Madrid. His Spanish for us, Spanish for I do watch Ubieto. Ubieto actually, I do like to see his reactions. He's probably out of because all the content creators I watch, most of them are in Spanish. Well, all of them actually are in Spanish. Because these are content creators in Spain, so they're a lot closer. Especially when it comes to Barca, I follow a lot of reporters who are in Spain because they're closer to the club, and they can get information before anyone else. Because when you live there, you can establish those contacts, right? Make friends with people who actually work at the club and get information and things like that. Plus, you're on the ground and you can see shit happen, right? It's like, oh, the agent of, I don't know, Haaland is in the airport, right? How are you going to see that besides the fact you actually being at the airport in Barcelona? So, but I do like Ubieto. Out of all the Madridista content creators, Spanish content creators, I think he's the one who's more fair in his analysis, more unbiased. Obviously, not completely because we're all biased. Like I love it when people comment like, "Mo, you're so biased." Yeah, well, no shit, dude. I mean, the channel is called Barça News. All I cover is Barça News. I wear a hat that fucking says Barcelona. What the fuck did you expect? But I think out of all the Madrid content creators, I think he's like the one who has the more balanced view. He still obviously gets, gets kind of weighed down by his, by his love for Madrid. Obviously, when he was, like when they were talking about Arsenal, he truly believed that they were gonna pull off a remontada, and it's like, all right, bro, come on. I mean, a true objective fan would say, fuck no. I mean, they had just gotten cooked, and Madrid was playing like shit. But we all do that, right? We're all guilty of being biased. So please, don't come to the channel and tell me I'm biased. I fucking know. I say it all the time. I mean, what's next? You're going to tell me, Mo, you have a beard. Yeah, no shit, I know. But anyways, Dragonic Ray says the speed of play and the speed/strength of shooting is the major flaws I see. We could have a better scoreline. And Edwin says you should have done a reaction to Roncero's meltdown. That clan was livid. I did see some videos about Roncero and, of course, a lot of the El Chiringuito people. I'll say people because I don't want to get my video censored by YouTube. But, I can't do it because, obviously, the great majority of my subscribers are English speakers, not Spanish speakers. But I would love to make, those reaction videos to Spanish content creators because the meltdowns, first of all, there's a lot more of them. There's way more YouTube or content creators, Spanish-speaking content creators than there are English-speaking content creators. And second of all, some of them have some incredible meltdowns. I mean, it's hilarious. I watch it. But, if I made a video on my channel, most of my subscribers will be like, huh? What are they saying? But let's see. Let's do one more and then we'll end this. But Dragonic Ray says, for watching Spanish content, YouTube's auto-translate caption feature is goated. That's how I watch Ferran Barniol videos on Camp Nou interior, exterior construction progress. Oh, okay. I didn't know they were... I've actually never tried to turn on the subtitles to see how accurate it is. I imagine it's a lot more accurate now, especially with AI, because I remember when Google Translate first became a thing, the translations were word for word. And obviously you cannot translate word for word. You have to translate context, which is not something we were able to do several years ago. But now with AI, you can actually translate the context of the sentence. It's kind of like if you translate what's up in another language, it sounds retarded. Like, what is up? I don't know, the roof, right? It just doesn't make sense. You have to translate the context, like, hey, hello, right? In another language. So, but I imagine it's a lot better now with YouTube since computers are taking over, man. The robots are going to get us. They're going to get us. Anyways, that is all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your likes, your comments, your subscriptions. If you haven't hit the like button yet, make sure you do. It's free. It helps the channel continue to grow. And, well, it makes me feel good. Makes me feel like my work is paying off. And don't forget to subscribe. Drop the comments. Let me know what you thought about today's match. And I will see you in... I don't know if I'm going to make another video. If I do, I'll see you in that video. If not, I'll see you in tomorrow's podcast, right? Tomorrow's Friday. I don't even know what day it is. Anyways, thank you guys. I will see you later. And as always, be Scottish.